Four full moons. Welcome back. The topic for today would be signs that you're spiritually awake. First sign being that you feel like the saying, "My life was a lie," now resonates with you. Everything you were told or believed in was a lie. And if you think about it, we almost feel like we're entering a new world when we figure out everything was a lie, and that's because belief creates reality. That's living proof. So, if you figure out everything was a lie, well, that means that before that you believed it was true, and now that your whole world's falling apart, now that you figured out everything was a lie, that means your world was based off of belief. And that's, on a side note, how you can manifest by belief, because if you believe something that isn't true and then you figure out it's not and your life's a lie, and then your world changes. Therefore belief creates your world, or that means belief creates your world. Now the second sign would be you start telling people all the things you figured out that were lies and all the new truth you figured out, and they don't understand because they haven't yet entered that dimension. And then you start to lose friends because you're in a different dimension as them. And I've said in my previous videos, two different energies cannot go together. One has to compromise. So if you're up here and you're down here, and those energies are near each other, one's going to go up or one's going to go down. That's how negative people can pull you down, and that's how positive people can pull you up. One of the energies will have to compromise. The next sign that you're spiritually awake would be you start questioning everything, and I mean everything. You can't trust nobody. Nobody. That's another sign that you're spiritually awake. The fourth sign is that you start to realize that all the idols you look up to, or some of them, may have went through the same thing you went through. And their success was based off of them turning a negative into a positive, because it takes the very lows to bring you up. So the next sign is that you realize all of your idols went through this moment, or a lot of them, and you're starting to realize that everyone has the same potential to become anything they look up to. Everyone has that potential. You start to realize that when you become spiritually awake. So the next step or sign that you're spiritually awake is that you know that you've been waiting for this very moment, that this was the moment that creates your new world, and you feel like this whole thing was planned. Now there's an Egyptian saying called "it was written," which basically means everything was planned. Everything was planned. You chose this life. You watched it all before it even happened. You saw it before it even happened. And that's where deja vu comes from, on a side note. But when you realize that this is what you've been waiting for, this new world to create, that's a sign that you're spiritually awake. Now, the next sign that you're spiritually awake is you start looking into things like the third eye, or you might not have even heard of it until you hear of it, if that makes sense. So you have to stumble across it and you're like, what's the third eye? And it might not even seem interesting, even if you're spiritually awake, because you don't know what the third eye is. You don't even know it's spiritual. But then you click the video and it starts all making sense. The third eye is what sees the unseen. The third eye tells more truth than these two eyes. So that's the next sign that you're spiritually awake. Now another sign is that your diet changes. Once your diet changes, you start to feel a lot better, and you start realizing that food is energy. Food is literally energy. So if you eat meat from an animal that was killed, when it's dying, its DNA structure is changing to resemble what it's feeling. So now you're putting that in your body, and now your stomach's absorbing it, and now it's altering your DNA to feel what that animal felt before it died. So that's why people get depressed, and you'll start realizing that once you become a vegan, if you do. I don't make people become vegans, I don't judge. It's all up to you. A tip would be, a tip after all these signs that you're spiritually awake is to never think you know everything, because once you believe that you know everything on this planet, that's when your hunger for being here starts to go down, because there is so much that we don't know. And if you literally think that, okay, I know it all, at first you're always learning, but somewhere along the way, some people get this ego towards their spirituality, and they can't tell the difference. And once that ego kicks in, you start thinking you know everything. And I don't know how it happens. I think it might be you telling people your truth and they don't believe you. So then that fires the ego within you to prove it, and then you reach a certain point where you have this ego even in your own head that you know everything. And once you have that ego that you know everything, that's when you stop growing spiritually, because you've convinced yourself that there's nothing else to learn and that you know it all. But if you think back to the beginning of your spiritual growth, you'll start to think back, you'll start to realize, wait a minute, I was always learning so much and feeling great because I was still learning. So never tell yourself that you know everything, because you don't, and you want to have a reason to be here. You want to keep growing spiritually. So that's just a little tip to not let your ego swarm your spirituality, and don't program yourself to believe that you know everything, because then you'll stop learning. Whereas, well, on top of that, if you have programmed yourself to stop learning, I suggest meditating and changing your thought structure. It takes quite a bit of work, but it'll work. And keep asking the universe through meditation, what more is there that I haven't learned? I'm 4 full moons, your light in the darkest time, or your light in the lightest time. It's up to you. See you in another video.